could I most help?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like going back to the COVID-19. I'm kind of like I planned originally to take it this July, but I just don't know what to do now with everything going on and what that would look like for me because I was looking into applying for 2021. Um, so I'm just lost on where to start, where to go, what to do. Like, I don't, yeah.
Of course, of course. And where are you at with your LSAT prep at the moment?
I started kind of doing an LSAT prep via Kaplan online, the free resource, but it's not the same. I don't know. I'm not feeling like I'm getting somewhere with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So if you're just at the early beginning stages of your prep,
Hmm.
then July's kind of soon. That gives you
Right.
just under 3 months, a little, maybe 2.5 months. And if you're applying to start law school fall 2021, there's no rush. So you
Hmm.
could take the LSAT in August or October or November and still apply this cycle fairly early in the cycle, actually, and you'd be fine.
Hmm. So then, with that being said, do you think that that would, if what's the difference between applying early and applying in the regular cycle, if that makes sense?
Well, law school is primarily rolling admissions.
Hmm.
There is binding early decision, which I don't typically recommend, and applications are supposedly evaluated in the order in which they're received, although in practice, they waitlist a lot of folks. So what matters more than applying early is getting the score.
Okay. And then with the LSAT, so my concern too is the new LSAT Flex, especially because I have a little one. I have a little 5-year-old who I don't have no one to entertain for the whole course of the LSAT. So that's my other concern. And I was wondering if you have any recommendations, or do you think that would change? Do you think that the LSAT will get waived in the future due to COVID-19, like they have waived the SATs for undergrad?
I don't think it's that likely that it'll get waived, in part because the ABA rules require law schools to use a valid and reliable admission test, and because LSAC has come out with the LSAT Flex. So
Okay.
if there were no way to administer the LSAT period, I could see them waiving it. But because they came out with this really quickly, probably because they do want to remain relevant, they don't want people to stop taking the LSAT because that's a large part of their reason for existing. They rolled this out
Mhm.
quickly. LSAT Flex is their solution, and it's a pretty good one. And I'm impressed they came out with it so quickly.
So my other question is, can you tell me more about like the new LA SAT Flex?
Yeah, so the LSAT Flex, I've got a whole playlist on YouTube running through this.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to cover all of the details with you now. I'll refer you there. Actually, I put together the playlist at bit.ly/LSAT Flex, where I have dozens of videos on this. But the short version is 3 sections, not 5, at home and online, 1 games, 1 reasoning, 1 reading comp section, back to back, and you're done in 2 hours.
And do you think that this would benefit a lot of people? Would you consider it being easier than the regular traditional SAT?
I think it's a more pleasant test taking experience because it's shorter. And assuming you've got a suitable home environment with good internet and your 5 year old's not running around, then it could be okay. It could be better for a lot of people. But if you don't have good internet or if there's distractions at home or obligations at home, then it might not be as good. The other
Hmm.
thing is that since it's 3 sections and there's only 1 section of logical reasoning, and LSAC has actually confirmed that logical reasoning is weighted the same as all other sections. So before it was half the exam, now it's 1/3. So if you're better at games and reading comp, LSAT Flex is a better option for you than the regular in-person LSAT.
Okay. And then with that being said, do you feel like this would like be an option? Let's say that down the road, like October comes around and we're able to go out and do it in person. Do you think that there would be an option where they do flex and then in person, if that
It's
makes
hard.
sense?
It's hard. Yeah, it does make sense. And I've thought about this a lot because on the one hand, the whole reason they put out the LSAT Flex is because of coronavirus, because of stay-at-home orders. If
Mhm.
things are back to normal, would they still keep LSAT Flex? I don't know. I think it depends in part on how long this goes on for. If there are stay-at-home orders continuing into the fall, or if there are waves of coronavirus, then it might just be simpler for them to say, hey, you know what? we're going to make it LSAT-Flex indefinitely because that's the safer, more practical or prudent course of action versus leaving all this ambiguity every single month. Will this be a flex? Will this be in person? It stresses people out a lot to not know. At least if you know for sure it's going to be flex, you can prep accordingly and you're not constantly checking for the updates.
So with the flex being in place, do you feel like study times are the same amount, or do you feel like people need to study a little bit less? What does that look like now that it's a little bit shorter?
I would not study any less because the LSAT is just as important as ever before. The fact that you're doing fewer questions actually means that endurance matters less. So that's a good thing. You're not doing 5 sections and you're not there for 3.5 hours. You're done in 2 hours and that's it. But on the other hand, each question is worth more because there are fewer questions. So I wouldn't study any less. I wouldn't study any more. If you have more free time because of quarantine, then I would say make the most of it. Right. But change your prep accordingly, meaning less logical reasoning, more games and reading comp, and simulate test day appropriately where you're doing 3 sections, not 5.
So with that being said, like if the LSAT does remain as a flex, would you recommend that we practice in our computers and on a tablet? What would you say would be kind of like a good option for us to, because I know that when it was in person, they were switching over to tablets. Yeah. From my understanding. So a lot of people were saying like, oh, start practicing on your tablet. So with that being said, what would you recommend now that it's flex?
Yeah, do it on the computer. Simulate everything as closely as possible. So if you think it's highly likely you're going to do flex, which is very likely the case for the June and July LSATs, then prep on the computer. If you're not sure which way it's going to be, then I'd say ideally do a bit of each. But either way, assuming you're taking it in North America, you're going to be doing either flex or digital on tablet, most likely, with very few exceptions, which means you want to get used to the digital LSAT interface as part of official LSAT Prep Plus on LSAC's website, where they have most of the exams in that style, in that format, with those features, versus doing things in books, which is not at all what you're going to be doing in those situations.
Mm-hmm. So with the new, do you recommend that we get the $100? It was like what, $99 worth of LSAT pass exams?
Yeah, that's the best source, really. $99 a year for access to the majority of the exams in the exact same format. To me, that's a no-brainer, and it's a bargain compared to getting all of those exams in books.
And then, so then, with that being said, also would that package also, which tests do you feel would be more appropriate to prioritize? Because they have different years of the test, right? Yeah.
So the newer ones are more relevant.
Okay. And so then would you recommend that we study those more than the older ones?
Yeah, I certainly would. And so in my study schedules on my site, I basically lay out for you exactly which exams to do, which problems to do. And so if you're studying over the course of 2 to 3 months, let's say you were taking it in July, then you're best off studying from the most recent 20 to 30 exams. But if you're taking it 4 months out or 5 months out, then I would work on slightly older exams as well, because you'll have time to do them. But I would never suggest doing the older exams at the expense of the newer ones.
Okay. Makes sense. I think those are all my questions.
Sure, Carla. I'm glad to help.
Actually, I just want to say that this is really helpful. I feel like just having someone to talk to about this kind of stuff made it and putting a face, right, to this whole thing really made me feel a little bit better about myself and about going confident. And I'm looking forward, because I was looking into doing because I received your emails. I was looking into doing some of your preps course.
Awesome, Carla. Well, I'm glad I was able to help. Please keep in touch. Let me know if you need anything, and I'll hope to see you in the course.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.